Hey guys, today I want to teach you 3 heavy metal, like classic heavy metal style guitar riffs, but we're gonna play and learn these riffs in a key that's maybe not so guitar friendly. What I'm about to teach you is really gonna take your playing from like wherever it is to way up there somewhere. The reason why is because we're going to play this in a key that you may not be used to playing it in, and that's E flat. Well, E flat minor to be exact. Now when I say key, what I'm really pertaining to is our finger position on the fretboard, and you'll see what I'm talking about here when we go through the lessons. Make sure though you hang around till the end of the lesson, because I'm going to show you how to put these 3 riffs together and make them kind of like a full song. And after that, I'm gonna tell you a little backstory behind this particular key that we're playing in and why I chose to show you these riffs in this particular key. So that first riff there is really like a power chord driven riff, and what we're doing is we're going back and forth between palm muting that root note and then hitting some single notes on that next string, but hopping around back and forth like you saw in the tablature. By the way, if you need to go back to the tabs, feel free to go back to those and pause it. I'll actually put the timestamps in the description of the YouTube video where each lesson starts. So you'll be able to go back quickly and just listen to that part and see the tabs. Now that riff, we started out with this wicked little bend. It kind of takes me back to the George Lynch style of playing when he was with Dawkins, and it really just gives it that twist, and it also kind of packs in some emotion there. It's like that little part of it starting out like that is just really reaching out and grabbing you. And then once we go through this a little bit, we're doing the same thing on another string there. So we've got these wicked little bends there, which again is very cool. It just adds a lot of emotion and life to that part. And that's a really good riff to throw in there for transitions, like if you're going from chorus to bridge or verse to chorus or something like that, but you want to break the song up. That's what that style of riff can help you do. You can throw that in there to just break things up a little bit, and it just sounds really cool. Now we're starting this riff out with what I call a powerful power chord. I know there's a technical name for it, but powerful power chord just sounds way cooler than whatever else you want to call it. Okay, so what we're doing with that first chord, instead of just playing the regular power chord, which you would start normally by picking or hitting that root note, we're actually playing the fifth note, but the lower octave. And as you saw in the tabs back there, we barred those first two notes to make that happen. So you've got your lower fifth note that you're starting with, then the root note, then you've got your higher fifth note. All of those together, especially starting out with that lower fifth, just gives it more of a powerful feeling. And the reason I did that is because we are playing on some higher notes there. Then we go right into the chord progression, which this is like one of those really emotional sounding chord progressions. But on the second time around, we actually end on a little bit different chord there, and then we finish off with a riff. And this is really just kind of like doing pull-offs and hammer-ons all in one there. I don't really pick each individual note. As you can see in the tabs back there, when I was playing a little bit slower, I would pick that first note, but then I would hammer on that second. Then I go over to the next string, pick that note, hammer on that one, and then just come back around. Now, I'll be honest with you about this. I don't always play it the same way every single time. That's just par for the course for Jason. That's just how I do things. If I feel like playing it a little different, I will do that. So I can't tell you that I picked or did not pick every single note. There might be a note or two that the second time I played that, I may have picked it instead of doing the hammer on or whatever. Again, that's just the way I choose to do things even when I'm giving lessons like this, because I want you to learn how to just feel what you're playing, and you don't always have to play the exact note every time, the exact same way every time. You can kind of put some more emotion and put some more feeling behind it. And yes, play it right, play it to where it sounds good. I'm not giving you like a license to just, be sloppy and screw up. But again, having those little shifts and those little nuances, to me, that's kind of what metal music is missing today, because everything is so synchronized and just like the same and kind of robotic. That kind of stuff just helps take that away and give it more organic life. That's just my opinion. You may disagree, and that's okay. We're still friends. We don't always have to agree on everything, but that's just my way of doing things, because I know some of you listening to what I'm saying right now, I know that will help some of you, and I don't want you to always beat yourself up about every time you don't play it exactly the same way. There are times when you just need to kind of relax a bit and give yourself room to breathe, or give your riffs room to breathe rather. Let them breathe out and just give that emotion, because that's really what playing music is all about. It's about telling that story, and it's about grabbing the listener, grabbing their attention, and bring them into this awesome world that you have. And I'm kind of going off the deep end here, so let's get back to what we just learned. I want us to throw it all together, and then again, hang around for the little story I have on this particular key that we're playing in here. And this is something that I want you guys to think about. Whenever you're learning riffs or practicing riffs, think about each individual riff and how you can kind of bring those together at the end. And as you can see, I recorded these in the sequence of the lessons that I gave you. That first riff was kind of like the verse. Then I connected the verse to the chorus. Chorus was number 3. I connected them with part 2, with riff 2 that you learned, and that was what I'll call the riff, because we're actually really riffing a lot in there. So I just kind of put those all together and just kind of to hear how it flows. That won't always work because you might be playing, songs with different, or riffs rather, with different cadences, and that's fine. But just be open to playing around with putting your pieces together like we just did with these lessons here. And that's really how I write songs. Like these riffs we just learned, like literally today, I came up with these riffs and I'm like, man, I want to share this with you guys because it's really cool. Why did I use the key of E flat minor? Some of you might be saying, well, Jason, you could have just down-tuned your guitar a half step and then you could have played this on that open string there and it would have sounded heavier or better or whatever. But most of you guys know how I feel about down-tuning or detuning. I just don't do it. Number one, I'm just too lazy to do it. The reason why I'm too lazy to do it, because all of my guitars have locking tremolos. Every electric I have has this. I am not going to go through the pain in the rear process of setting up a guitar every time I want to change the tuning. And I really just prefer to play in standard tuning anyway. I'm not against it. I think it's great that people down tune. Do what you want to do. It doesn't really matter as long as you like it. I actually have a video up there, kind of controversial. I've kind of gotten bashed over the head with that video because a lot of people watched it and took it, they took me way too seriously on that. There's a few comments on there that are like, you're like an idiot for not down tuning. What do you mean metal's down tuned? It's just preference. It's just personal preference. Tune your guitar however you want to tune it. However, and I just kind of went off the deep end again there, but hey, we love talking about this stuff. E flat minor. Here's one of the keys to playing in a different key. So playing in E flat minor, whatever, playing in that key, or rather that position on your guitar, that's a position that you're normally not playing with on your guitar. So what does that do? That opens up a different part in your brain, a different connection between your brain and your hands and the fretboard. It just opens that up and it makes you more creative and it makes you learn your fretboard a lot better. I mean, who plays in that key? I normally don't, but I used to play in the key of E flat and B flat. I told you in the beginning there'd be another chord I'd mention. I used to play in both of those keys quite a bit when I was growing up, when I first started playing guitar, and that's because I played music in a very traditional church growing up, and we sang like really old hymns out of these hymn books, and most of those songs were written in B flat or E flat or whatever flat or sharp. They weren't really in guitar friendly keys. So instead of rearranging the tunings on my guitars, I just played bar chords. I played bar chords in church, and actually I was playing under a very dear friend and mentor of mine, Ronnie Goodman, who he passed away several years ago. I think I've mentioned him on the channel before. He was just a phenomenal jazz and blues guitarist. Not really my style, but I admired him so much on what he could do, and he taught myself and other musicians kind of like all these different things. There's another good friend of mine, Alex, and I had two Matts in there. I won't say their last names, but hey, if you guys are watching, I miss our old days, man. We had some fun times playing music with Ronnie there. So in church, I would play in these really weird and not guitar friendly keys like E flat and B flat, playing bar chords and stuff. And of course playing some leads along with that too. Talking about difficult, man. You're learning like leads and these frets that you barely ever play. But then I'd go home and I'd play along with bands like Metallica. And a lot of those metal bands back then were in standard tuning, so you could play along with them. There are a few bands that weren't. There are like some hair bands and stuff like that, because I liked that too. I still do today, hey, I'll admit it. There was just some phenomenal guitar work done in that era, man. It was so cool. So long story short, I really grew up in my early years of guitar playing in two completely different spectrums. I'm playing metal and rock and roll over here, and then I would go to church and I would play in these weird piano-friendly, non-guitar friendly keys, and of course a style of music that is completely different than what I'm really wanting to play. But I really appreciate growing up like that as a musician, being able to play in these different keys. I'm not so great at it these days because I haven't played any of those church songs in years and years and years. But I appreciate the fact that I grew up, in both spectrums, learning different styles of music, and it was just fun. I mean, at the end of the day, music is music. But I do encourage you to try playing in different keys every now and then, or rather different places on the fretboard. Just explore your fretboard a little bit. You know, if you're used to playing in, like, let's say a GDC, well, try playing some bar chords in a G sharp. You know, start out in G sharp instead of the regular G, and just move around with that and just kind of figure out where those other chords are. And I think that's just going to help you expand your abilities, expand your skills, and just make you a better, not guitarist, but a better musician. Because a true musician can play in different keys and can expand and play in different styles. That's what true musicianship is about. It doesn't mean that you're going to start playing church songs in E flat. That's not what I'm saying. But hey, you will play these metal riffs I just taught you in E flat. And again, all that's going to do is just make you better. And for those of you who don't have it, I have a free metal guitar practice guide. There's a link in the YouTube description, so make sure you grab your copy of that. And if you have any questions at all about the riffs we just learned, or about any part of this video, I know I kind of went off on some little rabbit trails in this video, so hope you're still hanging out with me here, and I hope you had fun. But yeah, if you have any questions about any of the stuff I mentioned in this video, please leave those in the comments. This is just cool stuff to talk about. Guys, I hope you have an awesome day, and until the next video, keep it metal, or perhaps keep it metal church. My first metal church album was Blessing in Disguise.